The vice presidential debate is coming up. Normally, I wouldn't be making a video about this because the VP debate is often the most boringest part of the presidential election cycle, and it's something that nobody really cares about. And this is normally especially true when you have somebody who's a magnet for attention at the top of the ticket in the way that Donald Trump is. However, we live in crazy times, crazy things are happening, crazy. Therefore, I'm going to talk about the 3 things that Mike Pence actually needs to say or somewhat infer during the debate, and why they're critical for his success and why they can help the Trump campaign going into this election. But first, I have an announcement. Tomorrow, Thursday, October 8th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this channel, I will be joined by David Silverman to discuss his recent battles with the regressive left when it comes to the Black Lives Matter movement. Because if you have not been paying attention to this, it's been absolutely fantastic and entertaining in every way imaginable. But the reason I'm announcing this is not only so you mark down your calendar and show up tomorrow, it's also so you guys can go over to David Silverman's channel, Firebrand for Good, and give this man some subscribers. He is way too good to have 1.7 thousand subscribers, and I know that you guys can do a hell of a lot better than that. But without further ado, that's enough for the announcement. That's enough for tomorrow. That's tomorrow's war. We need to talk about today's war, and that is the VP debate between Joe Biden's VP, Kamala Harris, and Donald Trump's VP, Mike Pence. You like how I told you which candidate these people are associated with, as if you're a dum-dum and you didn't know that. Well, truth be told, I was stumbling and bumbling, and I just remembered VP and Joe Biden, and that's why I did that, and I'm not even going to cut this out of the video, even though this is a long, pointless, and irrelevant rant, and I'm going to cut moments from the end of this sentence. Cut now. Without any question, Mike Pence, this character from Johnny Quest, is going to have to face 3 crucial points that he's either going to have to bring up, debunk, or refute on the debate stage in order to be declared the winner of the debate. And the first is completely obvious. It's been dominating the headlines. And of course, I'm talking about the Black Lives Matter rioting. Mike Pence needs to position himself as the law and order candidate when it comes to this rioting. And this should be pretty easy considering Kamala Harris is very publicly, with her campaign, raising money to bail out Black Lives Matter rioters. There should not be any chance in hell that during the course of this debate, when Kamala Harris is bringing up Black Lives Matter and saying that the rioting and violence is Trump's fault, and I'm also denying the rioting because I'm a Democrat, that Mike Pence does not bring up and hammer this point home. Kamala Harris is bailing out the criminals. I want to lock the criminals up. This is a crucial point that Mike Pence needs to make during these debates in order to have a debate victory. And the next dovetails on the first point, because at some point during the course of this debate, you know it as well as I know it, Kamala Harris is going to bring up the issue of racism. We all know for a fact that the only reason Kamala Harris is the VP pick is because she's a woman of color, because she checks those boxes. So when she does inevitably bring up the issue of race and use it to attack either Donald Trump or Mike Pence as racist, white supremacist, whatever the buzzword that she's going to use, Mike Pence needs to rebuke her immediately with this point. And if he doesn't say this, I will be incredibly disappointed in him, and I will declare Kamala Harris the winner if he doesn't invoke this in some way, shape, or form. He needs to look her dead in the face through the bubble because of the social distancing and the extra precautions and say, what value do your accusations of racism actually had? Your biggest moment during the Democratic primary election was you accusing Joe Biden of racism. And yet, even though you were calling him a segregationist, you decided when you had the opportunity to advance your career to jump on board with his ticket.
And it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of 2 United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. Do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then?
No,
do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education That's what I opposed.
Well,
I
there
did
was
not
a
oppose.
failure of states to integrate
No,
public
but-
schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a
So
local
that's
decision.
where the federal government must step
The
in. That's why
federal
we have the
government must
Voting
step-
Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA.
Because it seems like you, Kamala Harris, absolutely love invoking and throwing around accusations of racism when they benefit you politically, but all of a sudden, when they're inconvenient, you say it's just a part of the debate. It wasn't real. Those weren't my real feelings. I mean, I said I was personally hurt by Joe Biden working with segregationists because I was a part of the second class that desegregated the Berkeley school system. But when he asked me to be on the ticket, when he asked me to take the back seat on the ticket, all of a sudden, I don't even remember that was just a debate. That's you, Kamala Harris, and Mike Pence needs to bring up this point, and he needs to hammer this home that Kamala Harris is a disingenuous actor, specifically when it comes to accusing her political opponents of racism. She only does it out of convenience, not out of genuine hurt feelings or a genuine desire to reduce the amount of racism in the world. If you are Mike Pence's debate coaches and you don't have these locked and loaded, ready to go, you haven't been prepping him on this specifically going into this debate, you need to be fired, put on a raft, and pushed out to sea, because this is so obvious, it's so blatant, that if Mike Pence misses this opportunity, it will be a complete and total and utter and complete and utter and total failure. Yes, I repeated myself for emphasis. It's a technique to make you know that this is very serious. Now, the third and final point, the most crucial point, especially considering the circumstances surrounding the president as of late, has to do with the Ronies, the virus, the pandemic, the thing that is the thing of all the things of 2020. And Mike Pence only has to hammer home one specific point. There's really two things he has to do. The first is obvious. It's just give consistent messaging, because the man at the top, Donald Trump, I don't care how much you love him. I don't care how much you think he's the best president of your lifetime or whatever you want to say positive about him. He is not consistent on the messaging around the virus. That's just a fact. I'm sorry. Hate to break it to you. It just happens to be the case. But the thing that Mike Pence needs to emphasize, other than a consistent, stern, strong, empathetic approach when it comes to the virus, is that Kamala Harris is a vaccine denier when it's politically convenient. Because remember, Trump tried to bring this up, Chris Wallace tried to bring this up, this whole thing about how I trust the scientists, but I don't trust President Trump. President Trump, I don't trust him. And all of those comments were surrounding the vaccine that's potentially coming out related to this virus. Anti-vaxxing should be a non-starter, especially when we have something as crucial as this, and delaying in vaccinations, if it's safe, is going to be a huge problem that's going to affect us for years to come. If you want to get out of the lockdowns, a vaccine is one of the ways that you can help push yourself in order to get out of it. And Kamala Harris, even more than Joe Biden, is guilty of pushing anti-vax rhetoric because Orange Man is bad.
You know, President Trump has promised a coronavirus vaccine by the end of the year or maybe sooner. Would you trust that vaccine?
I think that we have learned since this pandemic started, but really before that, that there's very little that we can trust that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. So, no, I would not trust his word. I would trust the word of public health experts and scientists, but not Donald Trump.
But do you trust that in the situation where we're in now, that the public health experts and the scientists will get the last word on the efficacy of a vaccine?
If past is prologue, that they will not. They'll be muzzled. They'll be suppressed. They will be sidelined.
This needs to be hammered home over and over again, because the rap on Republicans, and specifically a line of attack that is consistently used against Mike Pence, is that they are anti-science, and he specifically, due to the fact that he's very religious, is especially anti-science when it comes to the Republican Party. Remember, when Pence was put in charge of, like, the COVID whatever group, and they were all going to be reporting directly to him, people were like, how can you be reporting to Mike Pence if he's anti-science? You know, because somehow, if you're a religious person, therefore you don't believe in science and medicine, even though there's no evidence to suggest that Mike Pence doesn't believe in that. However, there is in fact evidence that Kamala Harris doesn't, because Kamala Harris is pushing vaccine denial tactics to own the Orange Man. And Mike Pence should hammer this home. And he should hammer home the hypocrisy and the anti-religious bigotry that comes off of somebody like Kamala Harris, who will attack Amy Coney Barrett for being too Catholic, when she herself is pushing anti-vax propaganda in order to own the orange man. Look, we all know that Kamala Harris is a political chameleon. She is a woman without an ideology. She will say and do anything that advantages herself and gaining more and more political power. She's essentially West Coast Hillary Clinton, as I've described before when I was breaking down the candidates going into the Democratic primary. Mike Pence needs to be prepared from this out of Kamala Harris. He needs to be prepared for her "I'm the prosecutor" shtick, and he needs to be able to rebut that. Kamala Harris is an attack dog. She likes to attack people. One of the best positions to be in any debate, because it makes you look strong and it makes you look correct, is attacking from a position of defense. Not trying to defend yourself or deflect, but going headlong into an attack put forward by somebody who's going after you. Kamala Harris, without fail, will take any opportunity to go after Mike Pence and President Trump. And the correct response for Mike Pence is to blitz her when she does that. Do not defend, do not deflect, just go headlong right at her, attack from a defensive position, and show how strong you are, and show how Kamala Harris really has nothing to her except for this faux "I'm a tough prosecutor" nonsense that she has behind her. No ideology, no beliefs. The only thing she wants is more power, and here are some examples of exactly why. That's what Mike Pence needs to do in order to get through this VP debate. I don't know if the VP debate is going to be more important this time, but I imagine, given the circumstances that the president's been dealing with over the last week, that it's possible. So these are the tips. These are the things to look out for. And if you guys can think of something that they should also look out for, let me know in the comments down below. This is the part of the video where I ask you to interact with my video. Like, subscribe, all of those things are so important to me. It's like my head is exploding. Follow me on the social media, support me with the support links. Till next time.